Do you ever find yourself stuck, frozen, and unable to take action, even though, given the situation, you know exactly what to do? I want you to know that this happens because of neurobiology and not because you're lazy, broken, unmotivated, or a procrastinator. So in this video, we're going to talk a little bit about the neuroanatomy of our nervous system being hijacked and how that takes us into a state of freeze. Let's start with the neuroanatomy. So we want to look at two parts of our brain. One is called the amygdala and the other is the prefrontal cortex. So the prefrontal cortex is the unit of the brain that is responsible for decision making, creative work, analytical work. It's called the executive control function of the brain. And then there is the amygdala, which is the threat response system. Now what happens is if you suffer from anxiety or people who have a tendency to overthink and ruminate things, given a particular situation, their amygdala comes online very quickly. And this happens to people with trauma backgrounds or they have had quote-unquote negative experiences in similar situations before. And when the amygdala comes online, the prefrontal cortex shuts down. Your system is flooded with adrenaline and cortisol, and you enter into a state of freeze. And at this state, it is very hard to do any kind of creative or critical thinking, and you kind of find yourself frozen. Think about a time when you wanted to talk to an attractive stranger, or maybe there was a high-risk presentation that you had to do at work. Logically, none of these situations are physically threatening, yet our body goes into a stress response because we risk social shame, we risk being seen, and depending on your past experiences or conditioning, your amygdala might get activated much easier than other people. And see, again, this is not because you're broken or something is fundamentally wrong with you. Your nervous system acts based on what's predictable, not what's real. So if you had a negative experience in a given situation in the past, your brain predicts that that's what's going to happen again. As such, it activates the threat response and then takes you into this state of freeze. So with this knowledge, we can free ourselves from that sense of shame and being broken and just not measuring up, because all those are mind stories, which doesn't solve the problem. So what do we do about it though? The solution is not in having more motivation. It's not in forcing yourself to do more things through willpower. It's essentially in something called state. That essentially is a fancy way of saying that you train your body and not your thoughts. You cannot unfreeze your nervous system by thinking. And this is backed by research from multiple fields, including somatic therapy, behavioral research, and polyvagal therapy. So all that is to say that the solution is not to force yourself into action. It is to take one small step at a time, training capacity, knowing how to regulate your nervous system when the threat response is activated. And we do it in small incremental doses. We learn techniques like deep breathing, box breathing. We learn to relax our body from the chest, shoulders, and learn techniques like body scan to notice wherever it is that we are holding tension. And we train it bit by bit in small incremental doses. So essentially the idea is we activate something called the parasympathetic nervous system, which is a system that takes your nervous system out of this fight or flight response and into a state of relaxation. And from this state of relaxation, our prefrontal cortex gets activated and we are unfrozen, and it becomes much easier to take action and move forward to what we actually want. And as we train it, over time we learn to internally regulate. This has made a huge difference in my life. I struggled with chronic anxiety, chronic insomnia, depression. But now, integrating these ideas and adopting practices over the last couple of years has made a huge difference. And that is what I wanted to leave you with this video. So do not judge yourself for not being able to take action when you find yourself in a state of freeze or in a state of overwhelm, because that actually worsens the problem. If that's where you are right now, I want you to know that this is something that's very workable. I have worked through it and I have went from a place of feeling deeply broken to feeling pretty functional. And I wish the same for you. If you found this content helpful, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.